Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And I do want to let everybody know they can check out the Ole Miss home team broadcast on SiriusXM. That is channel 190, or you can search the XFXM app and search Ole Miss Rebels. The Locked On Ole Miss podcast is on there as well. I am joined today by special guest Ben Mintz, who's out doing a ton of stuff for Barstool at the moment. He was at the Mercer game. He is going to be at the Tulane game. How you doing, Ben?
I'm doing great. You kind of mentioned I'm actually coming to you from beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. We've got a big Barstool actually owns 4 bars around the country. Scottsdale's one of them, so we have a big NFL opening night party. So, I can think of a lot worse places I could get shipped to work during the week than Scottsdale, Arizona. Happy to be here, but I will be flying back to New Orleans tomorrow. I'm doing Ole Miss Tulane and Titans Saints doubleheader this weekend. It's going to be a huge weekend in the Big Easy.
Yeah, your Louisiana roots are really well known, especially amongst the Ole Miss fan base. What does this Tulane game mean to you?
A lot. So my grandfather went to Tulane, and I actually do stuff with their NIL. Tulane. I live in uptown New Orleans, about 5 minutes away from the stadium, so I have a great relationship with Tulane. And when I saw this game on the schedule, I was just so excited. I don't know if people hadn't been yet, but they opened Ullman Stadium. I believe it was either 2017 or 2018. And it's just a whole different experience not having to go to the Superdome for a college football game. It's on campus. It's only about 25,000, but it's just a totally different deal. And you've seen what Tulane's been able to build with Coach Fritz. I mean, you're coming off an American Athletic Conference championship, that comeback thrilling in the Cotton Bowl to beat USC. You got a really good returning quarterback in Michael Pratt and a ton of momentum. So, 2:30 is going to be a pretty hot game in New Orleans, but I think it's going to be a wild one, and the Rebels better be ready because it always scares me when you're playing somebody else's Super Bowl. Tulane getting a top 25 SEC opponent on their home field. I mean, the Green Wave are going to be fired up for sure.
Yeah, it honestly reminds me like that Mike Norvell team in like 2015 with Memphis when Chad Kelly and the boys went up there. Nobody wants to think about that, but every Ole Miss fan probably has that in the back of their mind this weekend.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of saying too. It does remind me a little bit of those Memphis nightmares in the Liberty Bowl. I remember like the 04 one when D'Angelo Williams went, or 03 one when they beat Eli, and the 15 one when Paxton Lynch went nuts. But look, Ole Miss is a 7.5-point favorite. I just hope Ole Miss gets out of here with the win. There's no way I'd lay the points on the road in this game just because it's just too sketchy. Tulane did lose Tajay Spears, the superstar running back. He's actually going to be playing in the Superdome on Sunday for the Titans. They lost a couple of stud linebackers, but I thought Tulane might regress a little bit. They came out and destroyed a good South Alabama squad, 37-17 last week. And when I saw that, I got a little concerned about this week. So it's going to be a tough one for the Reps.
You were up in Oxford for the Mercer game, and granted, you have to do the caveat, it was Mercer, but what were your impressions of the game?
Well, look, I want to say this. I said this in my post-game video. I want to reiterate this. People take this stuff for granted because Mercer's FCS. I was at Ole Miss during like the Houston Nut and the Coach O era. We'd play FCS teams and win 17-10. So, when Ole Miss comes out and can score 73 points, I don't want to ever take that for granted. I saw a stat. It was Lane Kiffin's 20th game with 600-plus yards. I know this is like the norm now, but I just hope people understand it's not the norm as an Ole Miss fan. So you got to make sure you enjoy it. As far as the game goes, obviously you had to be very impressed by Tre Harris, the Louisiana Tech transfer. 3 touchdowns in the first 3.5 minutes as an Ole Miss Rebel. To break the Ole Miss school touchdown record for 4 touchdowns in a game at receiver. I mean, think about all the wide receivers, Rebs that had come through there. That's saying something. I think the biggest impression was Jaxson Dart just being the guy. And, I'd heard, we were all fall camp, and it sounded like he was going to be the guy, but you think when you bring in a 4-year starter, Spencer Sanders, who almost got Oklahoma State to the playoff 2 years ago before he got hurt last year, I still was kind of hesitant. Like, I don't know if Dart's going to be the guy, but he sees the job. He's the guy. He started 11 for 11 for 241 yards, I believe. Ole Miss has talent all over the field. Obviously Mercer had the 75-yard quarterback draw for a touchdown on the first drive, but I kind of think that woke the defense up. They only allowed 14 yards rushing after. So, while it did feel a little bit like a scrimmage playing an FCS team, I still enjoyed the heck out of it. And, you just can't take for granted this Tulane era because it's just such fun football.
Yeah, and if you think about it, that was the first most points scored in SEC history in an opener.
There was I didn't know that. It almost could have scored 100.
Yeah, they were a fumble inside the 10 from easily scoring 80. It's a weird situation, but yeah, you never want to take that for granted. Everybody's like, hey, but it's Mercer. But I was like, hey, but we scored 70, and nobody really does that.
Yeah, that's my thoughts too. And, the Lane era, Ole Miss is certainly building a really good football program, but it's also just so fun and so entertaining. And, I think there's a lot of value to that in this day and age.
All right. So shifting our focus to the Tulane Green Wave, what do you think the keys for the game against the Tulane Green Wave? What are you going to be watching for?
I mean, this is so cliche and stupid to say, but just got to take care of the football. Tulane has a very opportunistic defense, very underrated, very good last year, held South Alabama to 17 points. Jaxson Dart just can't be having turnovers on the road. Michael Pratt looked very good last week, but having said that, those Tulane receivers he was throwing a lot of wide open guys. So hopefully our secondary will do a better job not letting guys run free. But you're on the road, you're going to be facing a very emotional Tulane team, and so you just can't turn the ball over, stay balanced, get the running game going with Quinshon Judkins, be balanced on offense. And look, I think Ole Miss is the better team. I'm not sitting here saying they're not. I just think you're walking into a real tough situation, just knowing how much this game means to Tulane's program. And then also, they just beat USC in the Cotton Bowl. They're not going to be afraid of playing Ole Miss. And so that, I just feel like you're going to be playing a team that's super ready for this game. So Ole Miss, got to take care of the football, play balanced, and I think you can get out of there with a win. But like I said, I wouldn't be laying a bunch of money on that point spread.
The crazy thing is, I knew this was a big game for Tulane. I knew that, just whenever you look at everything, this is a chance for them to get an SEC scout at home. The first time they played a team that's been ranked since 2007 at home, and all of that was a big thing. But then you start looking and local news stations are doing live shots on Wednesday and Tuesday from Ullman Stadium. And you're like, okay, they are big game covering this. Like the city of New Orleans it's not just Tulane fans. It's the city of New Orleans.
Yeah. And I also want to mention Ole Miss beat them 62-21 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Tulane had to be on the road for 2 or 3 straight weeks after Hurricane Ida, I believe. It was Ida. And so, and I actually heard, I'll be honest, I heard some behind the scenes stuff that Tulane didn't like how they were treated at Ole Miss with locker room stuff. And there was some weird stuff. I don't know all the details, but I heard some Tulane people complaining to me, and they know they got run up in that game. And I don't think they forgot that either. So that's another thing to mention.
The interesting thing for me, this is the key for me that I'm looking at. And like I said, if Ole Miss plays clean and plays up to their ability, Ole Miss is going to win the game. There's no doubt Ole Miss is the better team in this game. But if you're looking for a situation that everything can go wrong, you take the emotion that Tulane has, look to see who controls the tempo. If Willie Fritz and his offense can slow the thing down with the new clock rules, taking away possessions from the Ole Miss offense, and this game is a touchdown in the fourth quarter, it could get a little squirrely.
No doubt. Like I said, I can't reiterate enough that I'm not panicked about this game. I'm not saying that, but people better take this thing extremely seriously. If this game was in Oxford, I'd feel like Ole Miss would win by a couple touchdowns. Tulane would push them. But the fact that it's in New Orleans on their home field makes this one super, super dicey. I believe Tulane only sold 3,000 tickets to Ole Miss fans because they only seat 25,000. This thing's going to be, it's not going to be the loudest environment because it's only 25,000, but it's going to be super packed. I know there's going to be a good bit of Ole Miss fans there, but it's not going to be, an Ole Miss home game. Ole Miss would have taken over if it was in the Superdome. I don't think that's necessarily the case here.
So who are you going to be watching for on the Ole Miss side Saturday in Tulane?
Well, I really think this is the game. I know that they used him and he had some touchdowns this week, but you're on the road, you run the football with Quinshon Judkins. I know that's a very obvious thing to say when you've got, maybe the top running back in the country who's a Heisman candidate. But I just think when you're on the road, you want to run the ball and be balanced. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that. I'm curious to see how Tre Harris builds off last week's effort. And, Jaxson Dart, he's been battle tested now. He's done road games. I mean, obviously, he kind of unraveled last year at LSU, but this ain't Tiger Stadium at Ullman on Saturday. It's not going to be that quite of a rowdy environment. Now that he's in year 2 as a starting quarterback, I think he should probably be a little more settled in on the road. And defensively, can they get heat on Pratt? Can the pass rush get to him? Because I need to maybe cause a couple of turnovers there. I think that's possible. But, man, Pratt really he came on strong toward the end of last year, and he looked really, really good last week. He's got a ton of experience. So, he's a good quarterback.
What's your prediction for Saturday? You got a score prediction?
Yeah, I'll give a score prediction. I'm gonna say Ole Miss 34-28. This one's a tough one. But Ole Miss guts it out on the road. As I said, I wouldn't lay the points. I think this is going to be one of those games. It's a game into the fourth quarter. I think Kiffin, does a great job pulling these games out usually, and I kind of think this is one where Ole Miss just pulls out. And, it's kind of one of those things where, of course, you want to look good, you want to blow out or whatever. Who gives a crap about any of that? Like, you're playing a top 25 team, Cotton Bowl champs on their home field. Just go there, get out of there with a victory. I don't care if it's by 1, 4, 20, whatever. Go get a road W. Build momentum and get on with it.
All right, your 34-28 prediction, do you think that's a backdoor cover or it's something that Ole Miss?
Like I said, I would never bet. I don't bet against Ole Miss under any circumstances, but gambling-wise, I would lean Tulane in the 7.5 here if I had to make a pick. But I would never bet against Ole Miss. I never bet against my school. But there's no way I'm laying over a touchdown on the road in this game. It means this much. Also, my gambling style, though, I'll just say this. I don't bet road favorites in sucker spots, period, ever. Like, I hate taking, a team's on the road in the spot in college football. I think you're lighting money on fire, and so you just never – it wouldn't matter if it's Ole Miss or anybody else. This is the kind of spot I'd be avoiding. I'm not a big fan of taking road favorites.
That's good to know. Generally, when you gamble on college football, it's truly a gamble anyway. Because anything can happen.
It's the road. Going on the road with 20-year-old kids is tough. And I knew that LSU by 2.5 last week in Orlando, I was just like, that looked like a rat to me too. I would rather Ole Miss be favored by 13 at home here than laying 7 or 7.5 on the road. That I would take Ole Miss if it was at home. That's how big a difference I think it is going on the road in college football.
Since you brought up LSU and Florida State, what are your thoughts on LSU and Clemson this early in the season?
If I were Clemson, I'd be panicked. I wouldn't be panicked about LSU. Look, there's two ways of looking at that Florida State game. I think Florida State's like national championship good. I really do. You're looking at a team there, you got a dual threat, veteran quarterback. They finally built up that offensive line. They have a good running game. You got a 6'5" and 6'7" receiver. You got speed all over the field. You got an elite pass rush. I feel like they kind of have everything, and I at least think they're a playoff team. I'm not saying that's an excuse for LSU to get beat like that in the second half, but, Brian Kelly's a really good coach. They looked terrible in week 1 against Florida State last year too, ended up winning the West. I'm not saying they're going to win the West, but I don't think that's like a push the panic button for LSU thing. I still think they're going to be good. Now, on the Clemson side of it, it's one thing to get blown out against a Florida State team that's going to win the ACC and make the playoff. Lose about 3 touchdowns to Duke's a whole different animal. And on the Clemson side of it, I think that Dabo has done a worse job transferring to this new NIL and transfer portal world than anybody. I think he has been stuck in 10 years ago. He doesn't take transfers. He's got the old school rah-rah thing, and he's just living in a different era. And, he's going to have to start adjusting better to the NIL and transfer world. They're going to get left behind because when you watch Clemson, they still have a good defense, but where are the athletes? Look at all the receivers that have come through there the last few years. I remember, one year they had Sammy Watkins, DeAndre Hopkins, and Martavis Bryant starting. We've seen T. Higgins. We've seen Mike Williams. We've seen so many Justin Ross. So many elite dudes have gone through there. Where are they now? I don't see any of them. I didn't see any playmakers on that field. And, to me, that you don't start getting those guys back. They don't look very elite on offense. And they blamed it all on DJ Uiagalelei. And he threw 5 touchdowns for Oregon State the other day. So it feels like it wasn't really his fault. I just think Dabo is stuck to the my way or the highway thing too much. So, crap. They got like a fire drill. Crap.
Anyway,
hey,
anyway. Okay.
They got a fire drill alarm in my hotel.
Okay.
Hang on a second.
Your attention, please. A fire has been reported in the building.
There's no fire. They said they were having their fire alarm drill today. I forgot about it.
Okay.
Please do not use the elevators.
Hopefully it stops soon. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Your attention, please.
They left a note on the door. They were doing like a fire alarm drill today, and I forgot about it.
That's okay.
Proceed calmly to the nearest exit. Please do not use the elevators.
You want me to? I don't know how long this is gonna last.
You know what we could do? I can cut it after the
Yeah, I just hope this will stop in a second.
A fire has been reported in the building. Please proceed calmly to the nearest exit. Please do not use the elevators.
This is awful. Do you want me to just message you when this is over?
No, what I'll do is I'll edit it after the Clemson thing, and I'll just put things like thank you and all of that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just don't know how long this is going to last. I don't know if it's like a 2-minute thing or a 10-minute thing.
Yeah. Would you be willing to do this again later on in the season?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm happy to do it again. No, I'm
okay.
Yeah.
Because come around the LSU game, around the Alabama game, if this thing goes the way I think it's going to go.
Yeah, I'll be at LSU. I'm doing LSU for sure. Yeah, no, I mean, no doubt about it.
You can hear that a fire alarm went off with Ben Mintz, and we want to thank Ben for joining the show. He was fantastic. It was awesome. He's out in Scottsdale for the opening of the NFL season. He will be at the Ole Miss Tulane game. He will be at the Ole Miss LSU game. Continue to follow Ben as well in Barstool Sports. Thank you very much for that. Hey, his pick, my pick, everybody's pick is brought to you by Stewart's Dill Pickle. His picks on this channel and SEC After Dark channel is brought to you by Stewart's Cajun Dill Pickles. There we go. They are a local sponsor. They are super Ole Miss centric. They are a small business, and they put their lifeblood into it. To make a excellent pickle product and dill type products where there's like green beans, asparagus, carrots, all of that pickled as well. So follow them on Instagram and Facebook, I think, and you will not regret it. That is Stewart's Cajun Dill Pickles. They do a fantastic job. They're the South's favorite dill pickle. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Tomorrow, why Ole Miss wins. Tune in for that. Thanks a lot. Hotty toddy.